One of the most important financial decisions someone will ever make is choosing the person who helps guide their wealth. But there's a challenge. It's surprisingly difficult to be able to choose between different wealth managers and to know if they're actually doing a great job or whether you're missing opportunities. For example, you might not know that your estate plan has flaws until you're gone. You might not know that your tax protection strategy fails until you're in court. And by then, it's too late to fix it. So today, Ben and I are going to break down 3 critical traits that high quality wealth managers should have, and the questions you should be asking to determine if your advisor truly measures up. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.
Thanks for being with us here on Legacy Beyond Wealth. We're glad to have you. I'm Ben George. He is Rob Shelton, founder of Axio Wealth Management. You can check him out online, axiowm.com. I think today's conversation is going to be a good one, right? People that are looking for the right advisor, this video hopefully will help point you in the right direction, give you some things to be looking for, because selecting that right wealth manager may be the single most important financial decision that you make. But most people are looking at it the wrong way when they evaluate. They're looking at performance and charts. They're looking at investment returns, right? They might even focus a little bit on personality as well. But there's 3 things that people really dig into when you want to find successful advisor relationships. And we're going to get into those today and talk about each one and kind of how to recognize it, and then also how to test for it as well. I think we try to be practical on providing you some guidance, as we always do in these videos. So let's jump into the first one here, Rob. Integrity, right? That is the foundation of trust, which is so important.
Absolutely. I don't know too many people that would feel like they could be able to work with a financial advisor if they didn't have absolute integrity and trust into that. And so, the strategies that you look to employ should always fall within legal and ethical boundaries. So here's a question I would say clients should ask: is under what conditions would you fire a client? And then what would you not do for a client? These are great questions to ask your current advisor, and to be able to understand where they stand on those 2 different points.
Yeah, I think that's so important. That's a tough one, I think, to try to identify, right? I mean, I think it's easier to see, some of the other ones we're going to talk about later, but that integrity one, that can be a little bit more challenging to identify in an advisor, can it?
It can. In fact, I was talking with an investor who's not our client, but they were telling us about how they became with their current financial advisor, and they were referred to a totally different advisor. But one of the first things that other advisor found out is that they knew one of his current clients and said, "Oh, isn't that so sad what so-and-so did to his wife?" And just broke that confidentiality right off the bat. And she said, "There's no way I could work with that gentleman, knowing that he didn't have complete confidence in everything that was going on." And so, it's so important to have that first foundational step be the integrity.
So trust, number 1 there, that integrity is so important. All right, our second here key trait is competence, right? So this is also not just a technical skill, but also a strategic thinker as well. So how can you find this trait, Rob? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think it's good to go in with just some great questions to be able to ask. And you may not know exactly, everything about investment management or tax planning or estate planning and risk management to be able to quantify if they have the competence there or not. But by just asking them just general questions about maybe how they do that in planning for a certain client. I did this with a tax professional recently. I had a client that was had this personal connection who was a tax professional, and he kept saying, "Oh, you got to come work with me. You got to come work with me." And so I said, "Well, tell him that we'd be happy to interview him and take a look at it." And I asked him, "Hey, what are some estate planning tax strategies you're using with current clients in a similar situation?" And he didn't have any idea about what we were talking about or different things. And so I think it's really important to be able to really make sure that someone has that competence to help you out. And, most advisors are out there to seek to understand goals and design solutions around those goals. But if they don't have the competence, it's hard to really get strategies that are going to help you gain momentum.
And that example that you share was a good one because we're talking competence in all areas, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think, well, my advisor, my wealth manager is going to help me get in the right investments and make sure my portfolio is properly structured and allocated. But there's just so much more when you talk about a comprehensive and full approach to planning.
Absolutely. And have a life that's dedicated to learning. I mean, we spend a significant sum of money every year in our firm for continuing education. So important for us to be able to feel like, I don't think you've ever reached the level of being done learning and fully competent in all things, because things are always changing and evolving. And so we want to try to be at the top of that and always sharpening our skill set. And so that'd be one question I think it'd be great to be able to ask is, hey, what do you currently do to stay competent in these areas? Because no one reaches that status and is fully competent and never has to learn again, right?
Yeah, it seems like a tough question to ask, but I know that a good advisor, a good wealth manager is going to embrace those questions, right? And be happy to discuss those things with you. So don't be afraid to ask that. All right, our third key trait here, the relationship, right? Those relationship skills, the communication. So again, explain why this one's so important, Rob, and how to find that advisor and that wealth manager that can help you with this.
Yeah, I'm thinking back. We recently took a trip out of the country towards the end of the year and got a call from a client and picked up the phone and I answered, even though we were on vacation. And she let me know that her spouse had passed away. And it wasn't a client that was calling at that point. It was a very dear friend and someone that we truly loved and cared about. And so having that kind of a relationship allows for strong communication, allows us to be able to be the most effective that we absolutely can be because we deeply care about each and every one of our clients and want to provide significant value back to them. And when you have that kind of a relationship, that's where you can really start to gain momentum in your wealth management structure. Again, that open, honest communication, be able to have those difficult conversations that maybe you wouldn't be able to have unless the relationship was really, really strong.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
Yeah, that's a great one to have. You want to have somebody that you can trust, that you can depend on, that you can also communicate with. That's going to respond to you as well, right? That's such a key part of building a strong and fruitful relationship with an advisor. What about having experience with clients like whoever's watching this video, right? How important is it to have a wealth manager that has seen people in your situation?
Yeah, when we go through the recommendation phase, after someone comes in for a discovery meeting, we'll get back together and give some recommendations. And I always like to throw a few client examples out there without divulging, identifying information about different strategies we maybe use with different clients that were just in a very similar situation. And recently I just paused and I asked the couple that was in there looking to become clients. And I said, is this helpful to be able to hear about these other types of strategies and how others have implemented it? And they said, man, that's really helpful for us to be able to evaluate. And I think a lot of people need to picture themselves working with that advisor or knowing that there are competencies in that area for people that's just like them. So one question to be able to ask is, what percentage of your clients are just like me, and what type of strategies do you typically implement for them?
Yeah, great questions to ask. And as we kind of round this conversation up and give you one last thing to be thinking about, that's that team coordination, right? To have a manager that's not trying to do it all on their own, right? Leaning on other experts. It's like with sports, Rob. Surrounding yourself with good coaches and good people is what makes you successful.
Absolutely is. And we talk about competence. I hope that didn't come across that you had to be the expert in everything, but maybe competent enough to understand some of the strategies and collaborate with those other professionals. And I think probably the most thing you could be the most competent in is if they're collaborating with other professionals and not trying to be the expert that's just the solo practitioner, but can be able to say, hey, we need to bring on your CPA and strategize about this, or your estate planning attorney, or your insurance specialist. All of these individuals have such a different perspective, and getting those perspectives in the same room really adds clarity, focus, and vision that you just couldn't get otherwise.
All these things that we've talked about today are what you should be looking for, right? This should be the expectation in a good wealth manager, and you'll discover that with Axio Wealth Management. You can log on axiowm.com to explore the website, learn a little bit more about the team, but really to understand the process and the collaborative approach and learn more about the communication, the competency, all that stuff, Rob, can be done through that discovery call, right?
Absolutely can. Yes.
So take advantage of that. You can get in touch right now. Just go with the show notes, the show description, be able to get in touch there. But take advantage of that discovery call, learn more about Axio Wealth Management, that collaborative approach, and how they can help you and your family. But hopefully this gives you a lot to think about, and hopefully makes it a little bit easier when you're out going out to try to identify the right person for you, because it is such an important decision for you financially and for your future. But if this does help, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that support as well. We'll be back again soon in another video, so please stay tuned. Rob, take care.
Thanks, Ben.